Hello, all of my fantastic, wonderful, and amazing Viking friends out there. This is part 2 of my two-part series with New Orleans. Yes, New Orleans, as they say in New Orleans. And it was quite an interesting trip. But today I'm going to explain more about my fantastic trip while I try my hand at making gumbo. You gumbo, I gumbo, we all gumbo wumbo. And then beignets, because yay, everybody loves beignets. Yes, they're a French donut, basically. Anyway, I'm going to try those two options because when I was out there in New Orleans, there was not a lot for me to eat. Not a lot of carnivore, not a lot of ketovore, and definitely not a lot of keto. So, anyway, here I go. Everything's going to be great. So, let's get started.
Distant shadows on the water, war cry erupts, steel clash sounding hotter. Viking drums pound, heartbeats quicken in the night. Call of the ravens, signal for the fight. This is sweet, moon is marching, moon retreat. Thundering steps, war drums say carry beat. Blood on the field, flowing from the bow. Stories told in firelight, legends growing old. Ravens call echo, and transcend. Drums of war detail, no place to pretend.
Okay, first things first, we got to get things going, rocking and a rolling here. So for starters, we're going to heat up this pan and then put a whole bunch of beef tallow in here with a big spoon. Well, first we need a spoon that fits. Will this fit? Okay, nope, that doesn't fit either. Hold on, let me go get a spoon that fits. Okay, this is a reasonable size spoon. I'm going to just put some beef tallow in a hot pan. I love cast iron. Don't get me wrong, this is the best stuff ever. If you don't have cast iron, just a regular saucepan will do. There we go. I do have really expensive saucepans. I prefer these better. I do. I prefer these over the saucepans any day. I know the chefs out there are going to be like, ah, and I'm just like, meh. Okay, so gumbo is an interesting dish. There is the Creole and there's the Cajun gumbo. Both of them are just a conglomerate mess of meats and it's just a soup. And depending on if it's based on the Creole or based on the Cajun, it varies. But I'm going to kind of make my own today because I'm going to start out carnivore, as carnivore can be, and I'm going to work my way into the ketovore realm. So I just sent my son off to go pillage and plunder and go find ingredients because these ingredients are not very common. Okra, for example. Okra, I don't eat okra. Okra is a southern thing, a southern United States thing. And also, well, obviously we eat onions here, but I don't eat a lot of onions. And peppers, I did manage to find some peppers in the freezer. Not sure how old they are. We'll see. And then another thing that I am changing up, so I'm going to add black garlic. Now, black garlic is fermented garlic versus regular garlic, which is regular garlic out of the ground. So we're going to just add beef, this hot mixture. Oh, that looks beautiful. Next, we're going to add some scallops. Now, you could also add shrimp if you really wanted to. You could add any kind of different meat, chicken, pork, sausage. It's up to you at this point. Whatever you feel comfortable adding, it's up to you. We're just going to add some petite scallops to this. Where's my knife? Where's your knife, Irene? I need a knife. Okay. Okay, these were frozen, so they should take about 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to mix it together and then add our other ingredients. So now that we have the scallops and the beef cooking, I just want to go over a couple of ingredients that we could add. Onion, we could add a little bit of whatever this is, squash, I don't know. I think it's gonna go out to the chickens, I don't know. And celery, you could add just the leaves. You could add the stalks. You could not add at all. Don't know. Now to keep it carnivore though, we're going to add a little bit of beef broth. You could also add chicken broth if you really wanted to. Now the thickener, I'm just going to add some of this Kinder's bone broth gravy. You could add xanthan gum. You could add agar, I guess it's called. There's also other things you could probably add to Arabica gum. I'm trying to think of some of the other thickeners. There are thickeners out there. At this point in time, it's completely up to you if you even want to thicken it. But it's going to be better than cornstarch. Okay, so I'm just going to add just a little tiny bit. I can never do this correctly. It's been sitting in my cupboard for a minute. Okay. Oh dear, there is a dog barking. I'm going to add the black garlic. Here it goes, here it goes. And like I said, if you don't have access to black garlic, you probably could get it in the land of Amazonia. But if you don't have black garlic, then you can just use regular garlic, just smush it up and then pop it in. And wash your hands. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the gravy. This is not sponsored, of course. Nothing's sponsored here. I'm just adding what I know. And I couldn't find my xanthan gum. Otherwise, I would have added that. I did have, what was it called? Arabica gum. And I don't know where that went either. So we're just going to add some of this. It's going to add 4 carbohydrates total to this entire dish. But it's going to thicken it up to a broth quite nice. Now with carnivore, we're going to just add a little tiny bit of, this is paprika. And I know I have a hard time saying paprika, so I have to really emphasize it. And some cocoa powder. Strangest ingredient I've ever added to this. Well, no, I would have to say cinnamon. Cinnamon is a very strange thing to add to lamb, but it works. So 2 tablespoons of this mixture right here. We're going, oh, it is sticking. I am going to turn down the heat. Oh my goodness. I don't know, it's going to be a very interesting flavor. And then, this is completely up to you. The more we add to this, the more ketovore it becomes. And then obviously, if we add even more vegetables, it becomes keto. Okay. So this garlic needs to be smushed still. Just smush it. Smush it good. Okay. It's kind of thickening up too much, in my opinion. I'm going to add just a little tiny bit more here. A little bit more bone broth. Just a little tiny bit. I think it looks really good right now. I'm going to add a little bit of onion. That is my favorite right here. Just about a 1/4 cup of onion. And of course, this is also where you would add your sausage or whatever you wanted to with it. I am not sure. I wonder if bacon would be also good. Bacon might be amazing. You never know. And I obviously did not clean my kitchen correctly. Okay, so we're going to let this simmer a little bit. I think I'm going to chop 1 piece of celery, and I'm going to put the peppers in, because Hans can taste this. I hope he didn't disappear on me. Oh, that's a lot of peppers. Oh my gosh. Okay, obviously not that many peppers. I don't know what I'm going to do now with all those peppers. That is a lot of peppers. I didn't realize there was that many peppers in here. All right. Okay, crisis averted. Okay, I'm going to take 1 celery stalk and throw it in. First, I'm going to chop it first. Again, all of these ingredients are completely optional. You could even throw in Swiss chard if you really wanted to. You can throw in more onion if you wanted to. Okay. All right. Give this a stir here. This would be really great in the crock pot or a Dutch oven. All right. Okay. That looks good. I'm going to let this simmer on medium and, well, watch this.
So it's breeding season right now. Then the eggs will develop inside the mama for about a month or 2. Late June, early July, mama's going to move into that area. She's going to scoop up the dirt in a big circular pattern, make about a 2 to 3 foot high mound, and she's going to lay an average of 40 eggs in that mound. They're going to incubate for about 2 months. Then late August, early September, like I was saying, mamas are going to move in there because she's going to hear the babies hatching. When they hatch, down the log. When they hatch, they make a sound that you probably heard before. They go. When mama hears that, that sets off that maternal instinct. She goes and picks the babies up very gently, one by one, with her front teeth, moves them out of that nest mound into the water of the marsh, shallow water. It skips a whole year of breeding to take care of her babies. Now, like I told y'all before, that they're more like birds, they're very intelligent. This is where you're really going to see that come in. Mamas will go scavenge dead stuff to bring it back to the nest for them. They will protect them from predators. Gators are cold-blooded, so they need the sun to heat up their body temperature for digestion, heart rate, everything. Mamas will sense when they're not getting adequate body temperature, and they scoop them up in their mouth, in their throat pouch. They seek out an area with more dry land and more sun exposure, and they spit the babies out and corral them in that spot and make sure that they sit in the sun and get their blood temperature up. That's how intelligent the mama gator is, and she skips a whole year of breeding to be with her babies and take care of them for almost 2 years. They're extremely intelligent. They say, biologists say, gators are way more like birds than reptiles with their young. Their behavior is a lot more bird-like. So very good mamas. No, actually, a lot of people think that the males eat the babies. Unfortunately, it's a lot more tragic than that. Males rarely go into the market. Every once in a while, the male's real hungry. They're looking for opportunity, but they really don't eat them that often. But what does happen is, when mama's ready for a new nest 2 years later, she's going to roll out to the swamp, start breeding again, and then go back to her old nest to lay the new eggs. Usually she's going to find like 2 or 3 babies from the previous nests that are still there. And they're like, man, mama feeds me and protects me. I'm spending the rest of my life with mama. They're like 2.5 foot at this point. So what do y'all think is going to happen with them? Mama's going to eat her babies. This happens very, very often with gators.
I ended up adding a little bit more of this. I'm going to let this simmer. Meanwhile, because I had a catastrophe with the peppers, I used my last large wooden bowl, so I had to convert to this. That's okay, because we're not making a lot of beignets. Okay, for starters, beignets are originally from the Cajuns, which were the Acadians who were exiled from Canada and sent down in the 1750s down to the Americas and the American colonies, and then they migrated into Louisiana. They made their way into Louisiana, and it was called Acadiana, in the 1760s, and there they stayed until the Louisiana Purchase, where they made it their home. So we're going to make a very loose keto version of this. I could not make a carnivore version because it just, yeah. So all of my friends out there, if you do want to be creative, you could probably figure out how to make a carnivore version of this. I struggled, so we're just going to do keto. Now, almond flour you could also use coconut flour. The parts mix and match. I like this Birch Benders. It's so much easier because it already has the leavening and the concentrate, and it has a whole bunch of stuff in there. But it's very keto. You could call this dirty keto. I should measure. Hold on. Okay. 2 cups of either almond flour or Birch Benders, or 1 cup almond flour, 1 cup coconut flour. Now, coconut flour does absorb a lot of moisture, so you're going to have to add a little bit more moisture. I say moisture, a little bit more water or liquid to it if you use coconut. So I'm going to just do 2 cups here. I was looking at some of the recipes online. It was very interesting because everybody has their own version. So this is not quite 2 cups because I didn't fill it to the rim. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside here. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of vanilla whey protein powder. You want it close to 0 sugar as possible. A little tiny bit of Swerve. It's been sitting in the pantry for a while. There There we go. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to have to find the confectioner's swerve somewhere. I don't know where the confectioner's swerve meandered off to. And then we're going to add yeast. Now this is rapid rise yeast. Now this is just for the flavor. We're going to let it sit for a minute or two. Whole packet. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake. Okay. Now, this is the chance you can add heavy whipping cream, or my favorite, aha, the kefir. Do you remember the kefir? The kefir. My goodness, you can add so much stuff with this kefir. Another spoon. So this kefir, now I'm going to add a little bit of the liquid here as well, the whey of the kefir. Normally I would just add the solids of the kefir. And if you don't have kefir, you can add yogurt, I don't know about sour cream, or heavy whipping cream. Okay, I'm gonna add it here. Now, I know people are screaming at me. I know they are. They're probably wondering why I didn't start the yeast to begin with. It's because yeast is really for traditional baking with your flours, your buckwheat flour or your white flour, your wheat flour, your sorghum flour. Really, honestly, what you definitely want to do, I added way too much liquid. Wow. Yeah, don't add that much liquid. My goodness. All right. Add the rest of this. Because we want the dough really firm. Okay, so 2.5 cups here. 2.5 cups. Basically, we want the dough really firm. And you can add also a little bit of, is that baking powder? Baking powder will work. Ah, perfect. Okay. So this is bread-like. It really is. We're going to let the yeast kind of eat the remaining sugars here. I'm going to clean up a little tiny bit here. Meanwhile, the gumbo looks really good. It actually looks really good. We're going to let that kind of simmer down here. How many trials have you had with this gumbo? This is my 5th try. So literally, this is gumbo number 5. Okay. We are going to throw this into the oven really quick to continue cooking. Not necessary. Yeah, not necessary. Just ignore my oven over here. My oven has a whole bunch of stuff in it. I'm going to put this in the oven. Probably don't need the spoon in the oven. I don't even know what to do with things here. Oh shoot, that is heavy. Okay. How did I break my kitchen? I'm making gumbo. Oh, that's heavy. Oh. Okay. Alright, I put the gumbo in the oven. I just put it on whatever temperature it defaults to, because we're going to take it out, we're going to stir it, and then we're going to check on it. We just want it thick. We wanted a very thick kind of soup, stew kind of thing. I found the xanthan gum. It's buried in the back. I was trying to find sweetener. You also need some kind of sweetener. Now, Swerve, the confectioner sweetener, would be great. But alas. So this isn't as thick as what I want it. I'm not sure. You want it more of a pastry. But you know what? We're going to go with it. Because beignets probably should put a little bit more sweetener in it. Probably should. Okay, we're going to put a little bit more sweetener in it. Okay. Mix this up a little bit. There we go. All right. Now, if this was thicker, I wonder if we could do it thicker. Could we do it thicker? Let me do it thicker. I should do it thicker. Thicker. All right, let's do it thicker. Okay. We're at 3 cups now. I recommend adding all the ingredients at once, not just like this here. All right, so very thick, very, very thick. You want it dough-like. Oh yeah, see, there we go. Oh, and the gumbo is off, and away, thickening up as well. Okay. So, you want your beignets thick, you want your gumbo thick. There are jokes in there. I'm gonna add a little bit of xanthan gum. You don't have to. I'm going to. Now this stuff I'm going to add just a little bit. I don't want to accidentally dump the entire bag in there. Because, yeah, that would be really bad. Okay, this is a thickener as well. Okay. So I'm going to drop several of these inside of the pan here. And then I'm going to fry them up. Traditional beignets are either in hole shapes or square shapes. Usually square shapes because it's a pastry. These go down the gullet no matter what, so just fry them up. So I think I made a mistake. These beignets, they don't look like beignets. Not at all, not one bit. So I'm gonna have to figure out what I did wrong. I'm going to add a little bit of maybe olive oil to this. I don't know. But yeah, if you could see the inside, it's not as fluffy as what I wanted it to be. It's kind of more doughy. All right. Let me see. Yeah, that's hot. Flavor-wise, I mean, not bad. It's not bad at all. Just not beignets. Round 2. Let's go. So extra virgin olive oil here. Not sure if butter was a good frying oil. I'm not sure if extra virgin olive oil is good frying oil. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let me wash my hands and let's get back to it. Okay, this time I think I'm going to just do a little tiny dollop. I'm not going to do the big one. Ah! Okay, so now I'm on my 4th attempt. Obviously, you want these really, really small. I didn't realize how small. I was making them quite big at first, and then I kept on shrinking the diameter. And now, well, they're about a $1/2 size, or about ping pong ball size. So they're still delicious. The problem is getting them completely fried up so that they're not raw inside. So there's going to be some playing around with this, obviously. Probably also want a lot more oil in the bottom, because right now I only used about a 1/4 inch of oil. About, what is that, 2 centimeters? I don't know, of oil. So the oil was definitely a problem. As you can see, they puffed up quite well. They look beautiful. So I'm going to get that taken care of. And then, yeah, we're going to check on the gumbo. But meanwhile, watch this film.
We had a cemetery already. We just didn't know where it was. They didn't write much about it. The first time we clearly learned where it is in 1719. So if you've seen the St. Louis Cathedral Church downtown, draw a line straight to the river, that's where our first cemetery was. What did the governor write? That the river delivered the dead. Big storm comes in, the river rises, folds the embankment, and it flushed all that dead corpse into our city. And it's our first year of building the city, and we are French, Catholic, and superstitious, which is a horrible trifecta to see something like that. However, we wouldn't bury on the river anymore. If you drew a reverse line from the river to the church, on the backside of the church is a street called Orleans Avenue. You go down Orleans Avenue 4 blocks, second cemetery. But that's the cemetery you've heard of what happens here in New Orleans. Every time it floods in the spring, because all that ice and snow melts in 32 states, drain into the river and come here to New Orleans, and we would start to see our boxes rise up out of the river. Strike 2 for the French, and baseball hadn't even been invented yet. But a lot of you have been told it's why we went to these tombs. And there's a lot of people in New Orleans that will tell you it's why we went to these tombs. And the problem is they're misinformed. And when that hits YouTube, they're going to love it. Because we didn't invent these tombs. They were invented by the Italians dating back to the 8th century. And the Italians didn't use this for water table. They used it for disease. And why? In these rashes of diseases throughout Europe, the consensus was to burn your dead. And guess what Italian Catholics were not allowed to do?
Burn the dead.
Burn their dead. Which is hilarious to me because I'm Catholic. And if you look at our history, we burn the living all the time. We didn't have a problem setting you on fire if you were alive. We just wouldn't do it when you were dead. And we didn't reverse that decision until 1963. So if this was about burning your dead during disease, then why did we go to it in 1789? Well, you got to go back 1 year. In 1788, we have our first major fire here. And the fire burns down 90% of the city almost. We lost 856 buildings out of 1,100. So what the government did, and this is still noticeable today, is you go back and look up, you'll see a lot of the roof design is a gabled 2-sided roof design. But if you look at the roof at Jean Lafitte's, it had a 4-sided hip roof, right? Mm-hmm. Post-fire, we go to a 2-sided gabled roof, and the purpose of this was to collect rainwater. And rain would drain in 2 different directions. We'd build these huge cisterns to collect that water. And the event of the next fire, the premise was, is you had enough water to put your own fire out.
Mosquitoes.
And now that you know that, that concludes our tour today. Thanks for coming out. Putting stagnant water by your home is the worst idea we could have done.
Right.
And sure enough, though we've been here 90 years, 70 years in that second cemetery, with our bodies rising up and didn't make any change, we get a brand new disease. And it would turn your eyes yellow, high fever, you'd bleed out of different parts of your body. We would later call this hemorrhagic fever yellow fever. Comes out of nowhere, kills us by the hundreds, and probably approaching 1,000, and then a few months later it's gone. 1 year later, 1789, ironically, the same year we go to this tomb, the disease returns. And at this point, we are convinced of a couple things. One, it's your dead spreading the infection. And two, we knew the disease was here to stay. And because of that, they made two big changes. Follow me. What they wanted to do was put your dead out on the street. And we would use prisoners to pick up your dead and bring them to our brand new third cemetery where we start building the oven tombs. Now, first and foremost, the oven tombs didn't look like this at all. I'm going to show you today in our next stop what our tombs would have looked like. And they were literally just brick boxes, oven boxes. But since we thought it was your dead spreading the infection, we wanted you to put your dead out on the street. And our newspapers wrote about that forever, talking about how many bodies were stacked how high, going all the way down the streets of New Orleans. And we would scoop up your dead and we would bring them to our brand new third cemetery. And again, we would start putting them in here. The problem was we didn't allow you to bring your dead. So how did we know where to bury them? Well, we started putting the names on the tomb. And as you look around, you'll see these names everywhere at the tops of all of these tombs. Now, we're going to talk about these coping graves here later. These are just modified below ground burials, but you'll see it has a fixed name in front. And I'm going to show you just in a moment the street names. Every alleyway in this cemetery has a different street name. And you were literally addressing your dead to be picked up and delivered by some sort of creepy Amazon to the cemetery. Street told us what grave, what row your grave was on, and the name of the tomb told us which tomb to put the body. Now, with that said, the tomb, even though it has architecturally changed over the last 2 centuries, inside the tomb hasn't changed at all in more than 1,000 years. There are 2 compartments in here divided by a shelf. The body shows up to this street name and that tomb name. They're going to open up this stone here called a closure tablet. They're going to slide the body onto the shelf, and that's where the magic happens. We now know that our tombs can reach temperatures up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on how hot the day gets and how hot the night was. To give you a perspective, in New Orleans, in our summertime, we can be at 96 degrees Fahrenheit with 100% humidity at night with no sun, and it's miserable. So don't come back here in the summertime. And it takes roughly about 5 days or less to cook all the flesh off the bone. What usually survives is the bone, hair, and skin. Everything else just kind of cooks down. Now, it's not a flammable burn. It's more like a crock pot, slow cooker kind of burn. So the next time you're having some slow cooked food, you'll be thinking about New Orleans, and you're welcome for that. But the second compartment is actually a 3 to 4 foot hole that goes down in the ground. And what's interesting about this, it was Spain who brings us to New Orleans. And they kept all the same terminology of the tomb that the Italians used, except for that hole in the bottom. They refer to that hole as a cave. The French pronounced it caveau. And so why change one part of the tomb? Well, that's where we think the 3 lies of the Spanish come from. Number 1, we don't bury below ground here. Anybody heard that? Mm-hmm. Just hold that thought, because I'm going to show you plenty of burial below grounds today on the tour. 2, this was about our water table. Here's a big clue. We didn't go to this anywhere else that had water table problems. Okay. We have water table problems all the way to Texas and all the way to Florida. Why didn't we go to it there? We were under the same Spanish rule during that period. Wouldn't they just wave a magic pen and says, going forward, any water table problems goes to this? They didn't. We only did it here. And you only see patches just right outside of New Orleans, but you get to places like Baton Rouge, everybody's buried in the ground. And it's just a lie. It's just not true at all. And then we think the first platform was the Spanish trying to convince the French, hey, we want you to switch to this. And I get why the French were resistant. 1, they didn't like the Spanish. But 2, they were in control of 40 of those 70 years that our bodies were rising up and we did nothing about it. No one ever talks about that. And then Spain takes over, and for the next almost 30 years, they're in charge, and they showed up and says, hey, we're in charge now, and your cemetery looks weird. Why is it doing that? And the French probably told them to mind your business. But then we have that fire, that water trough, and that disease, and then the following year we switched to this. A couple things you should know about the tombs. 1, you have unlimited burials. There's no maximum number. A lot of cemeteries advertise today, unlimited burials. 2, never count the names on the stone. to tell you to how many people you think were buried. You know you didn't like Uncle Larry, but you buried them because it was the right family thing to do. You just don't have to put his name on the tomb. You may have buried a family friend, or a lifelong friend, or a neighbor. All of those are acceptable. You just don't have to put their name on the stone. If you've ever heard the term, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, it's how we get the remains from the shelf to the caveau. We took this long pole, fed it into the tomb, scraped all the remains out, took out a mallet, crushed up all those bones, put them in a cloth bag about the size of a beach ball, and we would drop that bag down into the caveau. But when you say I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, you're talking about a tool you touch the dead with. If you've ever been called a lazy bag of bones, the bag you transfer from the shelf to the caveau just meant you are as productive as that dead person. And the pizza industry gets the idea of the pizza oven from this concept right here.
Oh, Lord.
Totally just made up that last part. Sebastian Swoop was a human trafficker. He was shipping the Irish down here for something called indigent servitude. There were a lot of cultures that migrated here that didn't like slavery. Wasn't used to it, didn't want to be part of it. So the next option was you still needed labor. So where did we get that from? Well, they knew there were several Irish starving on the island. And people like Sebastian and other men like him started shipping those Irish here. And you could hire those Irish to do whatever work you wanted them to do. You paid them directly. They were free men and women, but they had an indebtedness to people like him. And they used this indigent servitude to make themselves wealthy. And he demonstrated that wealth by building the last iron cast tomb that we know on record. Coping graves were established really by the Irish here in the 1840s, and it was just a modified below ground burial practice. You got about 5 to 6 feet of dirt here, but you really can't go 5 to 6 feet down. So you go a few feet down, dig all the dirt out, put a wall, put a base, and then put the dirt back in. And then you put another wall on the outside, a couple feet up, put extra dirt in there, and now you can start burying in ground. The problem with these coping graves is that every time you dig into here, you are digging up previous people buried there. And when that rain starts to wash that dirt off, like you see it in the back, washing all the dirt off, we see evidence of those human remains. And I'm gonna get out of your way here, but you can see there is bone here. There's a piece of bone right there. There's clothing everywhere, but anything that looks porous, got the holes in it, that's bone, folks. I don't know if you can see, but that's bone right there. Died in August, died in June, died in August, died in August, died in September, died in August, and a couple of January, December. Look at the ages: 7 days old, 2 years old, 6 years old, 15 years old. George was 2, Katie was 3 months old. The rest of these people, a little bit older. Look at the year gap between 1849 and 1878. That's 29 years of all these kids dying. And you got a total of 6 kids there. So let's just say each kid would have had 6 kids themselves, and their kids would have had 6 kids themselves. How many generations of people are you talking about? A lot. And none of that ever existed because these kids died in the summer. And just truly a sad story. When Peter Markey dies, right, in 1849, a couple years later, they have another boy, and they decide to name him after their past son, probably in honor of their past son. And then he dies almost 3 years later. And yellow fever just truly wiped out whole family generations that just never got to it. And if you ever needed to know anything about yellow fever, if the month and the age is there, there's a really good chance you're talking about yellow fever when you look at the deaths. Remember, anything past 1905, we figured it out. Anything before 1905, and in the summer. I mean, does anybody find it weird that these are all kids and it was all the summer and it was all mid-1800s? Not an accident. I don't want to mislead anybody. Yellow fever is not the only thing that kills us, right? We had things like murder, we talked about last night. We had other diseases that could kill you. Don't forget, we also had murder. We had drowning, a lot of water here, and we had murder. We had old age, murder, genetics, murder. We were really good at murder. Yeah. We even had accidents. You could fall off your horse and then get murdered. But yellow fever would take the lead during the summertime, and it killed us in numbers we could compare to war, which is interesting because we've never had war here. Revolutionary War, there were no battles fought here. We were under Spanish rule. Spain wasn't the enemy. The Civil War, both the Union and Confederates believed that New Orleans needed to be saved no matter what cost or who won the war because of its importance to the Mississippi River. And you're like, well, didn't you have the Battle of New Orleans here? Didn't you have that here? No, we didn't. We had it several miles down the river. We've never fired the first shot in war in this city. And what's funny about that is we do shots all the time. It's just not for war, right? But yellow fever almost wiped the city off the face of the map. And there had to be conversations back then that this city may not survive it.
Now I'm going to just take these two out. These are the two last remaining ones. And I'm going to sprinkle these with some powdered sugar, but this is going to be powdered stevia. You could use, whoa. Obviously not that much. Whoa. Okay, not that much. Where's my thingy? Just ignore that I did that. Just ignore, yeah. That's a lot. Yeah, Swerve is a lot better. Okay, so pretend like I didn't do that. That was quite a bit, and I'm not sure if that'll be quite, yeah, I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of drizzle sauce right here. You can use all sorts of different sauces, compote, sugar-free, of course. Oh, you know what I should have done? Hold on, let me taste this here. Oh, no, it's hot. Now this is keto. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It almost tastes like a beignet. I mean, it is so close. That is hot. That is hot. This is so close to being a beignet. I don't know if I could tell the difference, except for obviously it fell apart. Now this is keto. I normally don't eat keto. I eat more carnivore-ish or ketovore. So this is quite a cheat on my diet here, on my lifestyle, but okay. I made a mess, obviously. I would have this again. 100%. I would have this. It's a beignet. It's a keto beignet. But quite honestly, if you served this up at a party, I guarantee you, people would not know, well, they would know the difference, but they would eat this. And I don't think that they would complain. Because this is quite delicious. Now, it is falling apart. So I'm probably going to have to perfect that. Ah! I made a mess. This would go. This is good. This is good, guys. This is good. You could make this with a raspberry compote. You could, whatever you want. This would be delicious. It tastes like a donut. Okay, besides it falling apart, my goodness. For next time, for next time, I think adding a lot more flour and a little bit more xanthan gum to it would help it stick together a little bit more. Delicious. Okay. Last but not least, we have the gumbo. Still cleaning up my mess here. Ha! Okay. Grab flinging stuff over here. Okay. Oh, that looks beautiful. Oh, that's hot. Oh, that's hot. Hopefully I don't ruin that cutting board. That is a very expensive cutting board I got from the neighbors. I love the neighbors. My neighbors are amazing and they support me. Although I don't know if they watch my videos. I'm gonna have to ask if they do. Okay, this is the gumbo. Hey, look, a spoon. It's not thick enough yet. My goodness, it's gonna need some time. Need some work. It needs to be a lot thicker, but that's okay. That's okay. I think maybe not adding so much broth next time, or if you're gonna add broth, let it simmer all day. I didn't simmer this all day. Okay, so if you are carnivore, of course, you're not going to add any of the vegetables. If you are keto, you can add all the vegetables in the world that you want, as long as they are low carb vegetables. I would just add a little tiny bit of vegetables to give it some girth and flavoring. But other than that, that's just me. I'm not a big fan of okra, but you can definitely add okra. Okay, so this would be the Cajun version of the gumbo. I'm gonna try a little bit of steak and a little bit of scallop. Yes. Needs to be thicker. So need to thicken it up a little bit more. We could add some xanthan gum if we wanted to. Or we could just stick it back into the oven and let it simmer for another 2-3 hours. Just thicken some more. Could add definitely some more things to it. I might add some smoked salt to it. I have this smoked bacon salt. You know what? Why not? I might have added way too much to it. Ignore me over here. We'll find out here in a minute. But that's okay. If you added way too much to it, this is what I recommend. Just add another pound of beef to it. Final product. Oh my goodness. This is delicious. Hit it on the head. Well, my friends, I am headed off to the Caribbean tomorrow. I'm going to sail away and I'm going to film all of my adventures in the Caribbean. Specifically, I'm going to a little island called Bonaire, and I'm going to do a lot of adventures there. And it's an island I haven't been before, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, until next time, my friends, I hope you have a very wonderful day, a very awesome week, and an amazing month. And hopefully you could try out the jambalaya from last video the gumbo from this video and then top it off with the beignets because yay. Anyway, leave it till. Skål!
Ravens call echo, battle cry crescent. Drums of war dictate, no place to pretend. War is stand strong, faith in their hands. Till saga ends, we conquer these lands.
Doing a catastrophe right now. I don't even know what to do. Okay. I almost hit my head. That would have been bad. Okay. All right. Let go. Oh, the gumbo. Try. I am recording. I buzzed around and I hit the record button and yeah. You gumbo, I gumbo, we wombo gumbo. And in the 1760s, they really proliferated. They really proliferated. It's still rolling. Oh, it's still rolling. Still rolling. Still rolling. Stop talking.